One of the potentially most confusing breakup scenarios, but also a pretty common one, is when your partner initiates a breakup, and then later you find out that the person they were spending so much time with in the last few weeks and months wasn't just a good friend, but you find out that your ex and this person are now in a relationship. And this brings up many questions and painful feelings. How could this have happened? After everything we've been through together, how could they just leave me like this and not even give me a chance? I thought I could trust them when they said that they and the third person were just friends. My ex must have never really cared for me. How could I have been this gullible? They're living their best life now while I'm stuck crying and alone on weekends. Am I even lovable? And of course, there are thousands of potential scenarios and individuals that go through these kinds of breakups, and it would be impossible for me to cover them all in this video. I want to talk about common dynamics and things that can be helpful in these common scenarios. Your situation may be very individual and different from some of the things I say. That doesn't mean it's not valid. So don't take the things I talk about as me saying this is the only way it can be, or if I say something about one side of the breakup, that would be me saying it always has to be like that and there's no other way. You can also contribute to our shared understanding of these types of breakups in the comments section as well. Sometimes people also watch these kinds of videos to figure out whose fault it was. And I'd like to invite you to watch this from a different angle, from the perspective of what is good for my mental health now, what can help me move on, and what can I learn from this for the future? Okay, so let's get into it. What does it mean if your partner leaves you and later you find out that they cheated on you and are together with this person now? And what does this not mean? Number one, it means unlucky things happen. After getting abandoned and betrayed, people often ask questions like, how could this have happened? This wasn't supposed to happen. This isn't what we agreed upon when we talked about our relationship or made our marriage vows. They never told me about what was going on with the other person and never gave me a chance to try and save our relationship. The emotional pain of the situation, the intensity of the pain of betrayal and abandonment makes your brain want to find a way back to safety. And it seems like if you could find the answers to all of these questions, you could make the pain go away or maybe even salvage the situation. Plus, you were left in the dark for a really long time before your breakup about what was going on in your relationship, and that's a horrible feeling of losing control. It can feel like your life narrative was suddenly stolen from you and you want to reclaim it, as you should. So to regain control, your brain tries to look for information. Information is the basis of control. And when I say control, I mean this in the sense of a healthy core emotional need that we all have. We all want to feel in control in our life and like we know what's going on. And you can't have a sense of orientation and agency without information. But this can become a dead end if, after a while, you still keep asking yourself these questions and you find yourself stuck in the same thought loops over and over, unable to move on. And that's when it becomes more and more important to practice stepping out of the unanswerable questions and to stop looking for information in places you've already looked many times without success. And this isn't a problem. You don't have to figure this out into the last detail to be able to move on and rebuild a meaningful life. Sometimes the answers don't go deeper than this was betrayal and dishonesty. And that's something we can't control 100% in life. If somebody wants to keep things from us, they will find a way, and that's not because you were too gullible. Sometimes the answers are that your partner wants to be with this other person, and that's really painful to go through, and it's hurtful, and it's not fair. But that may be all you have or can uncover in your search for answers. When it comes to this question, how could this have happened? Sometimes the answer is This is something people unfortunately sometimes do. And unlucky things happen. That doesn't mean you have to expose yourself to untrustworthy people in the future, or that you shouldn't test someone's trustworthiness before opening up to them. At the same time, there is no way, no matter how hard you think, to eliminate all risk in life and from relationships. You did something brave by taking a risk for love, and that may be all there is to it when it comes to these questions. It's important to acknowledge something that isn't often talked about openly in a relationship. Being in a committed relationship doesn't mean that your body and mind will automatically stop responding positively to other people. That's a natural human experience and something that almost everyone goes through at some point. When someone notices that this is happening for them, it's their responsibility to manage these feelings with awareness and integrity, and to ask themselves, is something missing in my relationship? And if necessary, to open up to their partner and have an honest conversation with them when they realize that they're starting to consider leaving the relationship. That responsibility lies with the person that is experiencing this, to handle this in alignment with their values and transparency. And their partner's responsibility starts if and when they start opening up about this. I want to mention this because it can help your healing if you remind yourself that your ex feeling attracted to somebody else isn't in itself evidence that something is wrong with you, or even that there was something wrong with your relationship. Attraction to other people comes up in nearly all relationships. And the attraction itself isn't the problem. The problem is choosing betrayal rather than facing difficult emotions and open and honest communication. And if you want to leave your rumination loops of thinking about and questioning yourself, how could this have happened? But you still want to dig deeper into the meaning of this breakup in a constructive way, a helpful place to look is to learn more about attachment styles and the signs of trauma bonds in toxic relationships and that kind of a relationship behavior. There might be more behind your breakup, like attachment insecurities and personality disorder issues. And it's good to know a bit about the signs of these kinds of issues. And of course, it's equally important to learn about your own attachment issues and inner patterns. Who do you tend to pick or feel attracted to as partners? What is healthy and unhealthy about that? What can you work on so that you show up in relationships and dating in a way that attracts healthy partners? And what can you do to bring a healthy dynamic to the table from your side? So if you find yourself asking questions like, how could this have happened over and over? Be sure to either constructively problem solve by learning about attachment and psyche-related patterns, of course, within certain time limits, and practice cognitively defusing from these thoughts and not getting hooked by them as much. That means when they pop up, to allow them to drift by without sticking to them and getting caught up in the chain of questions they could potentially bring. If you do that, it's called rumination, and it's often an attempt to undo the past and keeps you stuck in your despair. Your main task right now is to learn to accept what happened. And that doesn't mean you have to like it. It just means mentally not struggling against and fighting against the fact that it did. It means accepting that people sometimes do hurtful things, that people are sometimes unfortunately dishonest. And it means making room for the things that happen in our lives that we don't want to happen, but that unfortunately do. And it means to at some point stop asking the question, how come this happened? And to shift into taking care of yourself and to rebuilding your life and health. Number 2, it doesn't mean that your relationship didn't mean anything. A common question or thought to come up in these kinds of breakups is, did I ever mean anything to my ex? And the conclusion is often I probably didn't. The relationship, I never meant anything to them. I was the only one that was honestly present in this relationship. And if your ex is very hurtful and vindictive, they might even say these types of things to you. And it's natural from your current emotional state of feeling betrayed and like you've been kept in the dark for the last couple months to now generalize this feeling onto the whole relationship and feel like maybe the whole relationship wasn't what I thought it was. But I think that often this is a bias of emotional reasoning, taking the emotions you have now and fearing that you're detecting them in the whole relationship when that was actually never the case. And even if, in hindsight, you notice that this relationship wasn't really what you actually want in a relationship, know that some people never learn to work on their capacity for love. They might be self-centered and focused only on what is in for them in the relationship. And it's hurtful to be on the other side of that. And still, that doesn't mean that there was no love there. Also, sometimes people worry that their ex was being fake throughout the whole relationship, but there is a limit to how much people can fake. And especially if you spent a lot of time with each other, it would have become obvious at some point if they actually never really liked or loved you. The fact that they broke up with you and betrayed you doesn't undo the positive memories you have and experiences you remember, even if they're being vindictive and want you to believe that. You know your truth, stick with it. Number 3, it doesn't mean you're worthless. Another common dynamic in these kinds of breakups is for people to think that they're worthless and inadequate because they were dumped in such a hurtful way. And there's also immediately somebody else to compare yourself to, your ex's new partner, and to find all the ways in which you're inferior to them. You might also feel angry and jealous at seeing them together and like you were stupid by trusting them. If you were to conclude that all of this means that you're inadequate, you'd be taking your ex's behavior as an indicator of your worth. And another person's behavior never says anything about your worth. It says something about the emotional challenges they're having and maybe about the challenges that were there in the relationship, but nothing about your worth. You're still the same lovable, great, cool person that you were before this breakup and relationship. Your ex's choices can't ever touch that. Number 4, it doesn't mean this will happen again. Please don't generalize your ex's behavior onto the rest of the billions of people on this planet. Just because this happened to you doesn't mean it necessarily has to happen again. Number 5, how to move on. Beyond what I've already mentioned, it's important to stop comparing your current life to the life your ex has right now. They might seem to be doing great and they might feel good, but you don't know how much of that is true or healthy. And what your ex is doing or feeling, their choices don't contain any information about you, your worth, or which steps are important for you next. So be sure not to follow any channels that update you on your ex's life. Withdraw your focus of attention from your ex and shift it onto yourself, your life, your agency, your future, your health. And when your mind goes back to what happened, try responding to that with, that was horrible, instead of, how could this have happened? I wish you all the best for your healing. Till next time, take care. And remember, sometimes the answer doesn't go deeper than unlucky things unfortunately sometimes happen. And all we can do is learn whatever there is to learn and to make room for things that are out of our control.